Despite contention litigation, PDP begins national convention in Ibadan, Oyo State. Military confirms 4 security operatives killed in Borno ambush. The doctor strike enters 15th day as NARD demands better deal, improved pay. Another foreign sin, Storm Claudia kills 3 in Portugal, causes flooding in parts of Britain. Good evening, this is News at 7 on West Spring Television. My name is Tomilola Daniel Adejuwon. Despite the contention and litigation that trailed it for weeks, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, the National Convention began today in Ibadan, the state capital. The atmosphere at Lagos Salami Stadium, the venue of the event, was buzzing with activity. Waves of delegates in colorful regalia were seen at the venue, while pockets of supporters huddled across the grounds, quietly mapping out strategies for their preferred contenders. The PDP National Convention is drawing party leaders and delegates from across the country, even as controversy surrounds the event. Since the National Convention was announced, some members of the party loyal to the Federal Capital Territory, Minister Nyesom Wike, insisted that issues including the conduct of congresses be resolved. The development has led to the factionalization of the party, with Ambassador Umar Damagum and Abdurrahman Mohammed heading the 2 factions of the party. While the Damagum group insisted on the convention, the Abdurrahman camp cancelled the convention following the judgment of the Abuja Federal High Court.
Well, let me use this opportunity to welcome you to Ibadan, Oyo State. There has been a long stretch of battle to get to this point. But here we are. And by God's grace, this convention will go down as the convention that brought the turnaround to the People's Democratic Party nationally. So please, as you go around, don't only politic. You should use the time also to taste amala and gbegiri in Ibadan. So on that note, on behalf of the people of Oyo State, especially our party members in Oyo State, we welcome you to the 2025 National Convention.
Earlier, the Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the South Zone, George Turner, has condemned the Board of Trustees BOT rejection of the resolution of the Reconciliation Committee to resolve the party's internal crisis and ensure the peaceful holding of the 2025 National Convention. He also described the insistence by the Core 5 had recommended that going ahead for the convention must be subject to a favorable legal status and dispositions of the Independent National Electoral Committee, INEC. It also said that a suspension order should be lifted and the whole parties brought together for genuine reconciliation, among others. Adolphus Wabara on Friday said the conclusion of the committee does not represent its official position, insisting that the convention will proceed as earlier slated for Saturday and Sunday. Reacting to the development, Turner, speaking in a news chat this morning, described the BOT's rejection of the Reconciliation Committee's report as an act of impunity.
So we are not just talking because we want to talk. Now, the party's BOT set up a committee. This is their own BOT now, setting up a committee to make findings and come up with resolutions on a way out. And the committee, made up of very senior, outstanding members of the party, came up with resolutions, recommendations, one of which said that this convention should not go on, analyzing the implication, the legal implication, and the need for the party to be seen as a law-abiding party, a party that functions under the rule of law. But look at where we are. In a clear display of the impunity they are not obeying. A court of law, they are not obeying. So you can imagine the frustration that we have as members of this party. But again, the good thing is that the national secretary of our party, who has the responsibility to send out notice to delegates of venue, time, and a date for convention, have clearly issued notices. I'm sure your television station and other media channels have carried that notice to the effect that there is no convention of the PDP anywhere. And we, as law-abiding citizens of this country, will stand by the rule of law. We have a judgment. We are entitled to the fruit of our Jordan. What is the consequence of not going on with the convention today when the court of law have said so? The heavens will not fall. The heavens will not fall.
Right,
but when you travel in illegality, you now risk. First of all, you show yourself to Nigeria as a very lawless party. You show yourself to Nigeria as leaders that travel on impunity. You show yourself to Nigeria that you have no regard for our law, our courts. You have no regard for the judiciary. You have no regard for even your own processes. Your own committee that you set up, you have no regard. You cannot obey.
Similarly, the Kebbi State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has announced a decision to boycott the party's national convention scheduled for today in Ibadan, Oyo State. According to the chapter's publicity secretary, Sani Udodo, the state chapter of the party is distancing itself from the convention due to the candidacy of Kabiru Atanimu Turaki, who is seeking the position of the national chairman. The chapter questioned Turaki's legitimacy as a party member, citing a suspension in April 2023 for alleged gross misconduct, anti-party activities, and failure to pay party dues. The suspension issued by his Nasarawa One Ward also affected 7 other members, including the former gubernatorial candidate, General Bello S. Yaki. The Kebbi PDP chapter warned that anyone presented themselves as a delegate from the state is doing so without the party's authorization. Away from the PDP, the Speaker of the Ondo State House of Assembly, Olamide Oladiji, has alleged that some lawmakers in the House are plotting to frustrate Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa's administration and hinder its delivery of democratic dividends to the people. The development follows a widening internal rift within the Assembly, despite all 26 members belonging to the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC. While 14 lawmakers are said to be aligned with the Speaker and actively participating in legislative activities, the 12 others have reportedly stayed away over unresolved grievances. Reports on social media indicated that the aggrieved lawmakers have begun moves to alter the Assembly's leadership structure, including the removal of the Speaker after allegedly passing a vote of no confidence in him. Speaking with journalists in Akure, the state capital, this afternoon, Honorable Oladiji said the dissenting lawmakers were deliberately attempting to destabilize government operations. According to him, he had continued to run the assembly strictly in line with his rules and standing orders. Meanwhile, the majority leader of the House, Olatunji Shati, has dismissed reports of an internal leadership crisis and plans to impeach the Speaker, stating that the House remains united. To security matters, 4 officers have lost their lives in a fresh ambush by jihadists and security forces in northeastern Borno State, according to a statement by the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Lieutenant Colonel Apollonia Anele. Troops of 25 Task Force Brigade on routine patrol to secure communities around Wajiroko in Aziru, Mota, Damboa, local government area of Borno State, came under a sudden and heavy insurgent fire within the fringes of Sambisa Forest. The patrol team, which was led by the commander, 205 Brigade, Brigadier General M. Uba, and compromised troops of the brigade and members of Civilian Joint Task Force (CJTF) were said to have courageously fought through the insurgent ambush with superior firepower, forcing them to withdraw in disarray and to abandon their mission. However, during the encounter, 2 brave soldiers and 2 heroic civilian JTF members paid the supreme price while on active service to the nation. While commending the troops for their gallantry, the Army High Command commiserates with families and associates of the deceased gallant for their heroic sacrifice to the nation. In the meantime, the Joint Military Task Force operation enduring peace has apprehended a suspected gun runner and recovered several arms in Plateau State. The suspect, identified as Ishaya Musa, was arrested at the Jebo Bassa bypass checkpoint in Bassa local government area on November 14. The spokesman for the military task force, Major Samson Zakom, confirmed the arrest in a statement this afternoon. Major Zakom said troops recovered several weapons from the suspect, including 6 fabricated single-barrel rifles, 2 fabricated revolver rifles, 1 Dane gun, 1 expanded cartridge, and 1 other surgery items. According to him, the operation was part of an ongoing effort to curb illicit arms trafficking and enhance national security. In another development, in another local government in the state, the task force raided a suspected gun runner's hideout in Boko local government area of the state, recovering a cache of weapons and ammunition. The military further urged the public to remain vigilant and provide timely information to security agencies, especially as the harvest and Yuletide season approaches. Away from security, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, has called on the federal government to immediately conclude a long-delayed collective bargaining agreement as the indefinite strike today entered its 15th day. It also demanded a review of the outdated consolidated medical salary structure. In a statement posted on X today, the union said doctors will deserve a fair deal, noting that for long they have waited for an agreement, a simple written promise that ensures fairness, clear work terms, and proper pay. But the government keeps delaying while doctors face rising costs and crumbling morale. The union demanded the immediate conclusion of the CBA and review of the outdated CONMES salary structure. The strike, which began earlier this month, has affected 91 hospitals nationwide, including the federal teaching hospitals, the specialist institutions, and federal medical centers, disrupting medical services across the country. NARD added that the union's 19-point demand list is reasonable and necessary for the welfare of doctors and patients. President Bola Tinubu has called on stakeholders to join in administration in addressing the challenges facing tertiary education in the country, particularly in the area of funding. The president noted that education could not be left to the government alone, emphasizing the need for collaboration among stakeholders. He made the call during this address at the 36th convocation ceremony of the Federal University of Technology, Kore Futa, Ondo State. The president, represented by the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Universities Commission, Professor Abdullahi Ribadu, said while the government could continue to support tertiary education funding, it remained a collective responsibility. He added that it was pertinent to emphasize that the interconnection between tertiary institutions and industry should be improved, noting that research output from tertiary institutions should be impactful, enabling industries to readily make use of them for mutual benefit. Addressing the graduates, Tinubu encouraged them to use the knowledge acquired at the institution to contribute to the country's economic development. In another development, Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Dr. Zaka Dedeji, says Nigeria should not see its dwindling revenue as a national disaster, but as an opportunity to redesign the economy to strengthening institutions and modernize the tax system. Speaking at the University of Ilesha's Founders Day lecture, he said the country stands at a fiscal crossroad, but insisted that the challenge should inspire innovation rather than panic. Dr. Adedeji argued that economic resilience is not built during emergencies, but in periods of relative stability, and that Nigeria must adopt a proactive rather than reactive approach to fiscal management. The FIRS chairman stressed the need for structural reforms that look beyond short-term fixes, arguing that Nigeria must bounce forward stronger, smarter, and more prepared, but rather than merely recover from each disruption. He added that Nigeria's heavy debt burden, which he said at one point gulped over 90% of government revenue, shows why the country must rethink how it raises and manages public funds. On November 10, it was reported that Nigeria's gross profits from crude oil and gas sales dropped by 824.66 billion naira in 2024, despite a rebound in oil production.
Dwindling revenue is not the end of the road. They are called to reform. Our fiscal pressures are undeniable. Debt service obligations are high, traditional revenue sources are evolving, and societal demands are intensifying. Yet, history teaches us that the most resilient economy are not those that avoided hardship, but those that embrace adversity as a catalyst for transformation. This moment must not be seen as a crisis to be managed, but as an opportunity to reimagine, innovate, and rebuild with courage, clarity, and conviction. To seize this opportunity, we must commit to a bold reform agenda anchored on 4 pillars: a broad and equitable revenue system, one that is digital, inclusive, and reflective of shared responsibility across all sectors; discipline and transparent public financial management, guided by outcome, not just by allocation; diversified economic base, driven by strategic investment in productive and job-creating sectors; strong and accountable institutions, because reforms are only as durable as the institutions that implement and protect them. This is not a call for half measures or politically expedient fixes. It is a call for strategic foresight, institutional resilience, and intergovernmental thinking. At the Federal Inland Revenue Service, we understand the magnitude of the challenge before us, and we are rising to meet them. We are transforming into a modern, technology-enabled and intelligence-led revenue authority.
In a rather sad development, 2 separate fire incidents have destroyed production facilities in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, leaving properties worth millions of naira damaged. One of the incidents occurred late Friday night at Kunzol Multi-Sector Nigeria Limited, a yam flour and gari production factory located in the Kilanko Agbonka area of the Ilorin South Government area. It was learned that the fire, which started about 10 p.m., was triggered by heat from a furnace used during production, which later ignited combustible materials in the factory. Confirming the incident in a statement today, the head of media and publicity, Kwara State Fire Service, Hassan Adekunle, said the factory's entire production area was already ablaze before firefighters arrived. He said preliminary investigation revealed that the fire was triggered by remnants of unquenched fire, which ignited combustible materials in close proximity, leading to rapid escalation. The second incident was an early morning fire on Saturday that gutted Unique AJ Print, a printing facility along Okwomalu Road in the Ilorin East local government area. Still to come, Amarawa says the second tenure as NDLEA boss will be held for drug traffickers. We will bring you more on this when we return. Please stay with us.